Every man has formed an opinion.
You're claiming that you know the Word of God, correct?
Yes, sir. I'm a doctor of philosophy and history.
Are you? Okay,
Yes, sir.
good.
An opinion is like an asshole. Everybody's got one.
That's a good sock with a good shoe. Let's move on.
It's Christmas time here in Pensacola. Nobody gets gifts here. We just give each other seashells. And as you can see back here, we've got the Christmas lights lit up in the window. We don't use red and green here. We just use orange. It's all orange. If you use red and green, you're considered an outcast. True facts about Florida.
What text base do you use?
According to the Dead Sea Scrolls, it has.
I'm asking you which text base.
I'm going to tell you. It's the King James Version. Let me tell you.
King James Version is not a text base. Being committed to a process, not a conclusion, is extremely valuable in my life and others.
Can these cameras play jingle bells? I noticed they're professional. Signs of professional quality. Number one, camera plays music when you're touching the screen. What's the second sign of a professional camera?
Let me repeat that. I am committed to a
This scene's a process.
Okay.
Jesus himself went into the temple with a whip, and he whipped it up.
I'm simply talking about manuscripts. Out of all the manuscripts.
What manuscripts are you talking about?
We're standing here in front of our our local penitentiary / retirement home.
What's your story?
I came down here from Jacksonville. My mama was born and raised here.
You're wearing a cross. What does that mean to you?
My Father in heaven, I believe He helped me with everything else, everything I need. He helped me with my problem. You know?
Do you ever feel like He's not meeting your needs since you're on the street?
No. He always meets my needs. No matter what goes on, I'm finding help. He always on me. Because at His time, He don't never give you what you want. He give you what you need. He always meets my needs.
So we're here in downtown Pensacola.
Yeah.
On your left, you have me. On your right, you have Dr. Michael W. Jones. And in between, you have this big hole. Dr. Jones, where do you think this hole leads?
To the back of the cannon.
Oh, this is a cannon?
This is a cannon.
Oh, I thought this might have been a singularity.
No, I live as if all guns are loaded.
Hello! Don't cock the hammer.
Every church that is a brick and mortar is of satanic value.
There are over 400,000 textual variants. Are you suggesting that out of all of those textual variants, you have something that's perfect?
Yes, it's the infallible Word of God.
I believe there is a God, of course. I don't follow any particular religion, but there has to be a God up there, I think.
Is his name George or Vivian?
George or Vivian?
Yeah, which one? We're voting on this.
Of the two, probably George.
George? Okay. Got a George. That's one for George. Do you ever sense a presence?
I can say I have, not at a moment of inspiration, actually a moment when I almost got in a motorcycle accident.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Yeah, I was about to cross over a yellow line. I looked once, no cars were coming, and something told me to look. And there was a truck barreling down the road. But I slammed on the brakes and I said to myself, I'm dead right here. And somehow I stopped right in the middle of the road. The truck passed me right where you're standing.
All right. Thanks, George.
Right here, even from a young age, we know what is right and wrong. We know exactly what's right and wrong.
In Romans chapter 5, verse 1, it says, "To kauthentis unic pisteos," correct?
Sir, speak English. Come out from among them and be ye separate, saith the Lord. If you want to have true help in the Word of God, come to me and I'll help you. Okay, the original transcript was in Latin and Hebrew.
No. Okay, no. Paul spoke in Greek.
Okay, in Greek.
Paul.
Okay.
Paul
Okay,
spoke
it derived
dekauthentes
originally-
unek pisteos.
It derived originally.
What does it mean?
Why can't they heal you in these churches? And why are they overrun by sicknesses? Because they went to the witch, which is pharma. Pharmaceutical is the witch. It started in Greek, and it
pushing
started
it by.
in Hebrew, and it started in Latin, but it has been
didn't start in
translated to
Latin.
English. Pharmaceutical is the witch. You
You're
can argue
speaking
with
things
me.
that are spurious.
Sir, you better believe I'm speaking the truth. You are of doubt. You are of wickedness. You have willful sins. That's why you have no understanding, because you have not let go of your willful sins. There's two different kinds of sins in life. There's a willful one and there's an ignorant one, and you're living in an ignorant one. That's why you have no grace. Right here, even from a young age, we know what is right and wrong. We know exactly what's right and wrong, because even a child knows when he's done wrong. He knows when he's lied. He knows when he's stolen. Hebrews 10:26 says, if you continue to do a willful sin, the blood of Jesus Christ doesn't cover that sin no more, and you have no coverage of sins. Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
That was rather weird, huh? Let's move on.
Hey, you still got the best microphone. I don't understand this. Let's go look at some water.
If you want to have true help in the Word of God, come to me and I'll help you.
Okay. You didn't start that fight a while ago, right?
No, I didn't start that fight. No. I was
Okay.
just there. Bystander.
Okay, you were walking up behind what was going on. What did you hear?
I actually didn't hear anything. I just I could see that there was some hostility coming from the other guy, and started making my way towards you, and then got curious on what you guys were doing. So my whole family is, they're very religious, but I know that there's something, but I'm not going to label it. That's just how I feel. I know that there's something stronger than me. I know there's something that put us here, higher power, but I'm not going to put a label on it. I'm not going to call it what. That's just how I feel.
All right, this is Joey and Dr. Jones again, standing at what I'm told is the center of time and space. I just tried to turn those hands back. Nothing happened, trying to change my childhood and take away the pain. What do you think? Joey and Dr. Jones standing here once again. We have found a fork in the road. We have several options to take. We have one straight, one's right, but it says we can only go left. What do you think about this? Being forced to make a choice.
I think
at
we
a
need
singular
to go,
moment.
Okay, we need to go straight.
Straight. It says you can't do it. It says only left.
That's on that side of the line.
Right, and that's where you are.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
Bye.
true. Yeah. We have a long way to go. We are on this journey. It's very much in flux. We need a lot of people to get involved, simply because it's almost like being in group therapy. I mean, we are good for each other. Humanity is good for each other.
Absolutely.
We need to look to each other, turn to each other instead of away from each other. And so what are your thoughts on trying to stop this narrative of againstness that's going on in politics?
We definitely won't make any difference if we don't change our attitudes and if we don't grow up as people ourselves and learn to reach and touch people in a positive way. What it means to do that, how it affects others, why it can be difficult to maintain a positive attitude in a society that is now politically and racially charged. Somebody who's treating you poorly, they're probably doing that out of nothing that has anything to do with you.
Right.
And if you can be different and be better and be more positive, well, that's going to challenge how they feel they need to act. It's going to make them think about it, even if it's not in that moment.
Okay, let's talk about that gentleman for a few minutes, or just a second or two.
Yeah.
That guy.
He never told us his name. He did give us his phone number, though.
Right.
Yeah. If you want some cheer and some encouragement, you can call that guy's phone number, and he will lift your spirits.
Okay, but could you not tell that he has this need, this desire to be heard?
Sure.
I mean, he wants to put it out there.
Yeah.
But it's
Somebody
very
has
much
really
a
hurt that
one-way
guy.
street. Yeah. And so, I mean, he needs therapy, and I'm convinced
time.
that we
Yeah.
can be out here on the streets talking with people giving them an ear, respecting them, and not that we're not going to challenge them, but we can do it in a manner that would improve their lives. And that's what I would like to do. And so I really don't care whether a person's a theist, atheist, or an agnostic. What matters to me is that we reach out to each other and learn how to be friends.
Sure.
And build meaningful community together.
Yeah. That guy is he sits in an enormous group of people in this world that have probably completely forgotten what it was like to be a child,
right.
to be somebody who wanted to explore, who was curious about themselves and others, and boy, he's been badly hurt by probably not just one person, but you know, and now he believes that the way to, I guess, what he's calling goodness is by screaming at people and making sure that they believe exactly what he believes.
Right. But people are being radicalized on the left and the right in theism and atheism and so on and so on.
Yeah.
And there's something about that isn't doing anyone any good. And so we've got to take an approach that would bring peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Good words.
Well, I've enjoyed this evening.
Yeah, me too.
Fun. Love you.
Love you too. By the way, this is our Pensacola's public urinal, and I don't know, you might want to cut that out.
You first.
No, sir.
Every man has formed an opinion.
Okay, we went into a bit of a loop. That's my fault, but it is what it is. But tonight is very, very special. And yes, I've been talking too much about golf. My wife said, don't talk about golf tonight. And I said, I'm not going to tell anyone what I've done with my golf swing. That is with my driver. Wow. I'm not going to talk about that unless I'm asked. And so I'm not going to ask or tell, I guess. I don't know. But we have a very gracious, smart, and awesome guest tonight. His name is Dylan, and he's going to give us an update on COVID-19, and I'm very excited about this. Simply because he keeps in step with real-time science, right? And so I'm going to ask him to unmute and say hello to everyone.
Hello to everyone.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, there are so many things, and I'm going to bring Daryl and Terry back into the conversation in just a minute. But I want you to put something on the table. That is, where are we now? That is, with this genetic mobile particle that we call COVID-19. Talk to me.
Well, there are a number of different things going on, and I can't. I should not. First off, for the record, just state that I haven't been following this stuff as closely as I would like to. But I do have sort of a sense of what's going on and have been paying some attention to it. What I'm seeing is probably, I don't know, something around like an orange level. You know, it's not like full on like red alert. And that's really weird to say because we're sitting in the midst of, you know, a major infection wave, right? And we're starting to see these variants from around the world starting to show up in the U.S. and they are starting to spread faster, and we don't really have the infrastructure to track it, so we don't really know exactly what's going on yet with some of these other dudes. But we are starting to roll out the vaccines. I believe actually even before Biden was sworn in, they started releasing all of the vaccine as a first dose, sort of as a panacea to try to you know, slow down the rate of new infections. And you know, I think overall we've got a lot of reasons to be hopeful. Now, I'm hoping we have better tracking and vaccinations, and we just we watch it, and there is definitely a real threat, which is that some mutated version of this virus could potentially make it to where the vaccine doesn't work as well as it should, or could potentially be more lethal or more deadly. But at the present moment, I do not see any evidence that that's happening here and now. So, I mean, that much at least we can all agree is, is good, right?
Sure. I mean, I'm looking for some sunshine, if you will. And so when it comes to, let's say, what's going on, and let's talk about, things like mask. I'm a big fan of wearing a mask everywhere that I go, and a lot of people will laugh at me and all of that. And what is the simplest thing that you can tell a person about wearing a mask? I mean, what say you to the common, ordinary individual? Make it simple.
I mean, that's tough. It's been a long time. I think people know well what the risks are. And I think that there's an impediment that keeps some of us from understanding how important this is. And I think what that impediment has to do with is sort of a foundational assumption that we make that then sort of contradicts any evidence that we're later presented with, and sort of defeats our open minds from being able to react to new data as is presented. The way that I'm approaching the mask thing is I actually wear an N95 anytime I go anywhere in public. And that to some extent protects me. And so that's how I try to handle that. I don't start confrontations with strangers in the supermarket. If I see someone not wearing a mask, I don't go around and ask people where their mask is anymore. And maybe I should. Smart. But the confrontation was just too much. It was emotionally too difficult to try to speak to people about this.
I've been approached by, let's call them bullies, for lack of a better word, people wanting to tear my mask off. It's absurd, and I golf with people my age, a little bit older, a little bit younger, and one of the sad things that took place, that is the last time that I was out on the golf course, I was golfing with an 87-year-old man. He was quite the gentleman, and his wife died 6 months ago of COVID-19. And at 87 years old, I mean, the guy could just kick me to the curb when it comes to golf, and I hurt badly for him because that was the love of his life. I mean, it had been all about her, and it still is, and that's the beauty that is of that relationship. But he was very, very measured. That is, when it came to playing golf, he wore his mask. He did everything that, I would advocate as good. And it may take, people like him speaking to the community rather than the guy who walks in. Like I took my mother to the doctor the other day, and a young man walked in and was laughing at all of the patients sitting there 6 foot apart. And the nurses, schooled him, and he wasn't laughing any longer. But some people are not looking at this thing as a serious threat. So is there anything else that you can say that would nuance why we need to be wearing these masks? You need to unmute.
Yeah, it helps a little bit if I unmute, doesn't it?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So what I had started to say was that there is a thing that we can all do, but it's slow. It's not confrontation in the grocery store. I see the threat and I deal with it type fast. And the reason that it isn't that is because it's fundamentally a different type of interaction that people can have. And what I'm talking about here is difficult conversations with people that we love. We can use the strength of the relationships that we have with the people that we are close to in that way to communicate to them how important this is and to try to break down some of those barriers. And I think if everybody was able to effectively sort of get the word out at that level, you know, as opposed to the media level, which, you know, we do have support there now, and that's good. But I don't know that it's enough, because I don't think it's sinking in. I think people are, you know, everything is too politicized. So it comes down to what are your political values and what are your views on politics, which honestly, that should never happen. I mean, this is biological. This is scientific. This is, you know, this is a threat that is so clear and so present that a lot of us are staying home a lot of the time, you know, and when we don't, we're taking safety precautions to try to safeguard not only ourselves, but the people around us. And, you know, I think if people really understood from the standpoint of I love you and I care about you and I want you to be safe, please wear this mask, then you know, maybe the community could make a difference where, you know, some of the institutions aren't having as much success as we would like these days.
Right. Right now, our county, that is in the state of Florida, has the highest death rate. I learned that today, and it's, I don't know, you know, you come to the place to where you become speechless, because, you know, we go to the hospital all the time to visit, you know, those who have loved ones in the hospital, and we're there for them. But, you know, you have to be very, very safe and cautious about how that functions. And so it's a difficult walk. And so, you know, I'm trying to encourage as many people as I can, that is, to get vaccinated. I think it's very important. From what I've read,
I'm actually volunteering tomorrow so that I can get my vaccination. I went and waited in the line. It was really cold. It was a total drag. That was very sad, but it turns out that I'm actually too healthy to get one without volunteering here in Lubbock. But the good news is that for all the people like me who are young and fit and healthy, all you have to do is volunteer. You just sign up online. My sister helped me with it. And so I'm going tomorrow. It's from 1 to 8. I'm going to go get vaccinated. It's going to be great. And I think there are programs like this in a lot of places. I don't know about Florida. I'm also, I can't communicate how bad it makes me feel that someone tried to take your mask off, Dr. Jones. Man, that hurts.
I mean,
I'm so sorry on behalf of my fellow human beings.
I mean, believe it or not, right after Hurricane Sally, there was one gas station that was offering gas, and people here in the South, you've got some rednecks out there who will literally threaten your life if you do things differently. And so they form the line, and if you don't follow their rules, it's all about violence. And this is something that takes place here in the South that a lot of people don't get. And to push back on them, sometimes you can't push back in real time. You have to wait for an opportunity to where, you know, thinking would be the thing done instead of violence. And so oftentimes I will just say, okay, let's take your pathway for a few days, but we can get some change here since you put the demands on me so much. It's just strange, you know. It's a different world. It's a great place to live, though. I would rather live here in the South than up there where Terry is. I mean, my goodness, he's 10 below zero, Terry? I mean, come on. I mean, what's wrong with you? 10 below zero?
It's about 3 now, so that's pretty
Oh,
bad.
it's 3, yeah. I mean, that's not cool. That's not cool. And it's how cold where you're at, Daryl?
60 something last time I checked.
60 something. Okay. We have Dylan with us just for a short period of time, so I want to make use of him when it comes to the COVID-19 chat. What isn't being stated that is on the news that all of us need to hear about COVID-19? I want you to go for it and go A to Z with it. I don't mind how much time you take up with this, because people need to hear that is a measured way at looking at this. Talk to me.
Real quick thing I'd like to toss in there. I posted in the Facebook group, and I posted on the thread on the side chat, which is probably being buried right now by other chat. I posted a link to Vincent Rocaniello's This Week in Virology, where he deals with it's a continual talk. They're lengthy, they're relatively complicated, but it's still fairly straightforward, and ordinary people can look in there and stay abreast of what's happening with COVID research. So you might want to take a look at that yourself if you're not familiar with it, Dylan, too.
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I'd appreciate a link at some point. That would be a wonderful thing to look into.
But Dylan, go ahead and share what we are not getting, that is through the media, or maybe some journalists are dealing with it and not all. But share with us a bit. I mean, get into some details.
Okay. So there are a couple of different factors. You can still hear me, right?
I can.
I'm holding the microphone now. Okay. So there are a couple of different factors that drive the rate of mutation of a virus. One of them is sort of the properties of the virus, if that makes any sense. But the other is the exposure of the virus to cells within which it can replicate. And during its replication cycle, it has errors, and these errors can build up over time, and they can end up creating new properties that the virus then has, which express themselves differently in terms of how sick it makes us. And so the thing that I've seen a little bit of media coverage of, but not just a ton, and the stuff that I have seen hasn't been really the quality that I would look for. And you know, that's actually not really a fair way of putting it either, because the problem is that the data isn't there. The data isn't there because measurements have not been conducted. And so the problem is that right now we are not doing enough to sequence the genome of this virus. We are not doing enough to get out there and figure out what it's actually doing in our communities. And so, you know, I would really like to see that ramp up, and I would like to see, you know, sort of, I don't know, just a popular push to make the science better, because we just, I mean, this whole time we've been kind of falling on our face in terms of, you know, we're the United States. We're supposed to be out there in front. We're supposed to be leading the charge against this thing. We're supposed to be good at this, you know, and we just haven't been yet, and it's very disappointing. But the thing to remember about all of this, and it is a little scary, because we don't know, right? But the thing that makes me feel slightly optimistic about it is that at the end of the day, there are people in Europe and other nations around the world who are actually collecting this data, and they are actually observing the mutations as the virus goes through it, and they're finding out things. Like, so for example, one of the vaccines might not be as good against the South African variant of the virus, but not being as good, I believe it's still something like twice as effective as an ordinary vaccine against the flu. So for ending COVID and getting past sort of the hurdles that we're at, there are two major things that need to happen. One, the virus needs to stop spreading. Two, the virus needs to be better understood. And so sites like the one that Terry just mentioned, where you know, people are actually working to facilitate the understanding of the virus, I think are probably a really good step and a really good idea right now. And I think that spreading information, actual facts, not hearsay, and don't anybody dare quote me on this, because I started off by saying I'm not an expert. But, in terms of the way that I am looking at sort of the end of COVID, I think there is a chance that if we can get the virus to stop spreading, so i.e. wear a mask, right? I mean, it's just 101. Wash your hands when you get home from public. Wear gloves if you can. That kind of stuff is basic hygiene. Everybody knows it by now, but we're all getting tired of doing it. And if it only takes one lapse, to end up getting sick, and you can't take it back once that happens. And so there's a level of consciousness that I think some people are developing, which is, okay, on a rolling basis, every day when I wake up, have I been exposed potentially in the past 2 weeks, or have I taken all available security measures to protect myself? And for me personally, the way that I handle this as a primary caretaker of my father, who is ill, and who is immunocompromised and who cannot get this virus no matter what, is if I've seen anybody else and have been caught off guard or have not had my mask on the whole time or something like that, for a rolling month after that, every time I'm around my dad, I'm going to be wearing an N95 mask to protect his health, just on the off chance that I was careless enough to make that one mistake. If I'm going around my grandparents, if I'm going around my sister, if I'm going around her kids, I mean, it's harder with the kids because you want to play with them. You want to run with them. You want to piggyback ride on your back, And so if I have an interaction like that with my nieces where we're playing in the park and I'm giving one of them a piggyback ride, say, for 2 weeks after that, or for a month after that, I'm masking up to go around my dad. Basically this is just an extreme security precaution that I take to prevent the virus from spreading due to my negligence within my nuclear family. And I believe everyone else is doing similar things. We're spending a lot of time with each other. We're, honestly, in terms of just how well we're getting along as a group, I think we're doing better now than we really ever have. And that's kind of a beautiful thing, because we've come together as sort of a response to this this existential threat that we've had to face together, and that so many other families have had to face together. But precautions like that, where you're going maybe even just a little bit overboard, because you don't want to be the last person to get this virus and die of it.
Right.
That's the thing at the end here. It's just who's going to be the last careless soul to end up, falling prey to this vicious predator that's been stalking us for about a year now, maybe, a little bit over a year now.
I really hear in your voice, a lot of love for your family. And what you're saying, if I'm not misreading you, during this time, instead of it being a negative time, it has been a family-rich time. Am I getting that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. My family's been through a lot of hardship. Large part of that is my fault. I studied philosophy instead of going out and getting rich, and I own that choice. I think that was the right thing to do. But, there have been frictions that occurred as a result of sort of the society that we live in and the various different things that we each had to pick up to try to deal with that, And we've gotten closer and been able to resolve some of those tensions in a way that I would never have thought would be possible,
Awesome.
It's just because we spent so much time together.
Can you share with me a bit about that without revealing what you don't want to reveal? Because there are so many people who need help that is in that. How do I get closer to dad, mom, brother, sister, children? So many parents are so disconnected from their children, from their grandchildren, from their cousins, from their friends. What can you say tonight that would help guide people back to that, because, as you know and others know, I'm very pro-social, and I want, the first thing that I would like to see people doing is getting along, because I'm more interested in my friendship with you than I am your arguments, if that makes sense. Your arguments are so secondary to our bonding, if that makes sense. Okay, go for it.
Yeah. I think Robert Pirsig offers a valuable tool here. He talks about the metaphysics of quality with the capital Q. And, all of that is a little bit metaphysical and possibly a little bit silly, depending on who you are and what you think about it. But at the end of the day, the thing that Pirsig does that nobody else is really able to do is that he talks about this metaphysics of quality in terms of the subjective experience of value that people have. And in my mind, granted, some of this is conditioned from speaking, as I've been doing quite a bit with a friend of mine who's an artist. He's had a rough time, but he's been very successful. And he's done that piece that's going to be my avatar now. And so I sent that to you too. But so the thing is that, in speaking to this man who I've been sort of reunited with by technology after just so long of being, kind of working the same problem set from I do it with words, he does it with pictures. And the thing is that we're getting so close because, I have personally finally gotten to the point where it's okay for me to listen to what somebody says on their terms. And that's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing for anyone to do. And I think that at the end of the day, if I had to condense down sort of everything that's happened, people in my family have still done things that have upset me, and I've still done things that have upset them, especially like in the moment, like if somebody wants something or whatever. At the end of the day, what I try to remember is why I care about my sister, why I care about my nieces, why I care about my mother. And by tying everything back to sort of that primary value goal, you can kind of set aside some of the upsetness that you have in the moment, because always that is a result of miscommunication. So the problem that I used to have was that I couldn't listen to what people had to say to me, and I had to learn that. And so the thing that I've kind of put together over the last, just kind of being trapped with all these wonderful people that I care about so much, it's just to really, kind of set aside the instant response, let things sit for a minute, see how it feels. And then finally also to be vulnerable. The reason I brought Eric into this is because what Eric has been sort of teaching me lately is courage. The ability to own myself and own all of my actions and say, I take responsibility for that. It's an existentialist philosophical view, but to actually apply it to your life takes art. So just understanding what it isn't enough. You have to also sort of be it, and it has to be you. It can't be what you think someone else wants you to be, if that makes any sense.
You need to keep preaching. I mean, this is doing awesome stuff for everyone here. I mean, come on. I mean, I could bring Daryl in right now, and he would be saying amen, amen, amen. And if I can nudge Terry to share that link that he gave a while ago in the midst of this, that would be wonderful, because I'm sure that all of our friends would want to see that. But keep going. I mean, this is wonderful. You're disclosing some things that actually mean something. That is, you're shouldering responsibility that is in your relationship with your family, and it's developing, and I can't do anything but praise you for that. Keep talking.
Thank you. Yeah. It's weird because, I talk to people about these things sometimes, and I feel like I find respect and validation a lot, and that's new for me. I'm not used to that. It's been incredible.
Do you ever come to the point of tears? I mean,
always. Twice on this call, actually. I'm kind of fighting it.
I can tell. I can tell, and sometimes we get so caught up in our own ideas that we lose connection. And I can tell that you've connected just by looking into those eyes. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you. Yeah. My biggest two teachers are my nieces. That's who I learned all this from. My nieces and my artist friend. All the books were good, but they don't really teach you to apply it. So the weird thing is that once you've kind of read some of the books and you've kind of figured out what's going on in your head when you have these emotional reactions, is you develop the ability to manage it, which is really there are a bunch of quotes that my dad used to be into. What was it? I'm drawing a blank. It's about remembering in the moment not to make the decision, and then waiting. And it was a lot better than the justice I've done it just now. I'm actually starting a technology company. I'm doing a bunch of really bizarre things in life right now, and I feel like it wouldn't have become possible in the first place, if sort of this openness hadn't sort of taken place. And I think what I was doing before COVID is, I guess, running from my problems by just kind of always being surrounded by other people and asking them what they thought, and so locking me in a house by myself to figure out what I thought, whether I liked it or not, is kind of a powerful thing that I just didn't realize I could do before. I felt like I always had to be going, and as a result, I was basically spinning my tires, but being alone and being kind of forced to, as it were, I guess, entertain myself somehow. It sort of just became clear over time that I don't know, it wasn't about me, if that makes any sense. I look at my nieces and the way that they're growing up and the way their personalities are developed, and it's so revealing. I can see the tendencies that I used to have that caused me to throw fits, and I can kind of feel those coming, and I can kind of channel that emotion and accept it and sit with it for a minute, and then it doesn't hurt so much, if that makes any sense.
That makes all the sense in the world, and I would be doing everyone and a wrong if I didn't bring Daryl in. Daryl, are you resonating with any of this? Talk to me.
Yeah, my favorite thing so far that you've said, Dylan, is just actually two words. I mean, you've said a lot. I'm not saying that. This is just my favorite. And that was be you, be yourself. And I think that's one of the greatest challenges we have these days, because quite honestly, I'm not sure most of us know who we really are anyway, because we haven't had much opportunity to develop in that sense. And I think more and more what I'm seeing is people an attempt to shove people into a mold and say, you've got to embrace my views or you don't count. And that's tragic, because I think we need the opposite. We need challenges, if nothing else. We need diversity to challenge us in our own thinking, so that we can discover who we are. And so So I think that you're really onto something here, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. Wow. We're connecting. This is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jerry, jump in.
Okay. I took some notes without paper because I got a brain.
All right.
Couple of things. Number one is you're probably figuring me out better being isolated because as you're talking here, and I'm going to give you my schedule for the last few months because it's going to be easy. On December 2nd, I went grocery shopping. In the store, which was emptying at that time, there was a man with mask pulled over his beard and two small children that ran down the empty shelves and climbed into everything in the store. And I thought to myself, must be nice to be you, because that really concerned me. February 14th last year on Valentine's Day, I like to do things on holidays so I can remember them. I was in the hospital clinging to my life, if I hadn't had help, I wouldn't be alive. I mean, it was really bad. I think I mentioned that to you before. I went in with a 65% oxygen. It was, they found it hard to believe I walked in. So that was December 2nd, 2020. January 9th, I went shopping again, and there to a different store because I didn't want to bother with that. And there was some older people in the store, and they were all sitting around having coffee, and then they got up and just started walking around, and somebody said, well, you can't do that. They went, ah. So I feel vulnerable. I've been out 2 times in a little over 2 months, and I'm probably going to go out another time this week and then stay home for another month. I haven't seen any of my family. My daughter called up a little over a week ago, and she asked me if she could drop by last weekend. And I said, and she's got, she has a son of her own. She's married to a guy that has 2 kids, and they're teens, and they live in the house, and they're bouncing all over their community. They live in a suburb of Minneapolis. And I said, sorry. And then we both cried for a while. I haven't seen any of my family. A friend of mine has dropped by here 4 times, and we've stood outside and talked. That is my entire physical exposure. It is insanely difficult. And what's amazing is that people expect you to be just like you were 2 years ago. There's no compensation given, and in interactions. I'm certainly not talking about Dr. Jones and Daryl here, because you guys have been great. It's been really helpful for me not be able to pronounce words and things like that, because I don't do that much around here. But you and I talked about thinking some of our original conversation, which got rather lengthy, Dylan. We spoke about communication and about words and the necessity and the power. I remember it rather distinctly, and we didn't necessarily agree, but we didn't agree in, I think, a fairly polite manner. I hope, but at least that's what I'm going to remember it as, because I think we both progressed somehow since then. But it's been an interesting year, and it's I try to remember what the psychological, I'm just about on the verge of tears myself talking, because it's been a bitch of a year. It's been just horrible, but I'm pretty healthy. And I know that to stay this way, my best bet is to just continue as I have, which I have to kind of regularly take an assessment as, can I do that without snapping? Can I do that without, losing my composure in the wrong places? And I found the handiest thing is to draw back when there's too much pressure from an unnecessary source, to just pull back, and because I have to survive this thing, and literally no one. I mean, I got a really wonderful dog, but I have to survive for her sake. She's not going to help me, other than she wouldn't let me take a nap today when I wanted to, because she wanted to play with the ball. But I mean, this, I don't think that people quite get that grasp. What I think of are the concept of deep space travel. We want to go to, a moon of Jupiter. And you go, dude, that's going to take, I mean, the psychological strength to hold on in something like that is akin to what this is. I mean, this is here. You're locked in. You can't go anywhere. And I know that's not the same for all you guys, but Dylan, you said you were young and healthy, and I was going to ask you if there's some way I could get young and healthy so that I could be the beneficial one and mask up and and isolate for 2 weeks at a shop. But it's been interesting. And you said you were looking for something amusing, and I have something I want to show you here. The dog finds this amusing. See, there you go. And you might want to get one of these and then just chase the dot around the room. It'll it doesn't fill in an entire year, but it breaks up the days. So that's a tip from the wilderness, and I'll turn it back to you.
It beats introspection, huh?
That's cool. That is so cool. Hey, let me read you something. This comes from Thomas Merton. He was a theologian. Thinking outside of the box a bit, he said, "The beginning of love is the will to let those we love be perfectly themselves, the resolution not to twist them to fit our own image. If in loving them we do not love what they are, but only their potential likeness to ourselves, then we do not love them. We only love the reflection of ourselves we find in them." What say you? Do you like that?
Yeah, I think, well, this is a weird thing that I've been dealing with. I was recently biographied, and that wasn't, it was like an interview. There's a woman, her name is Jillian Godsell. She's an excellent scholar. She's from, she's a writer. So what she does is she goes out and she interviews people that are involved in blockchain, cryptocurrency, and then she writes about them, and she humanizes them. And the thing that struck me about the piece that she did about me was that she said that I didn't have an ego. And I'm like, I feel like I'm fighting this thing all the time. I think I've got an ego, but I definitely do try to work towards not having that. And I think the reason that seems to me to be like an efficient thing to do is because people almost never really want to start a confrontation or want to change someone else's minds from a place of genuine interaction. I think there's only really one mode with which we can encounter like the true nature of another human spirit or another human soul. And what that is appreciation. Like you see it, you identify with it, and you understand it, because we're all human and we're all human together. So yeah, the idea of the ego getting in the way of our relationships is something that is just so profoundly right. The way that I'm looking at this right now anyway, I'm sure there's a way in which it's a little wrong too, because as Aristotle said, it's, very difficult to hit the mark and very easy to miss. But yeah, I think that's an excellent quote. So I very much, who said that again?
That was Thomas Merton. I'll send you the quote after the show. It's powerful. He also stated to love our nothingness. We must love everything in us. That the proud man loves when he loves himself, but we must love it all for exactly the opposite reason. I also think that's powerful. I mean, he would push outside of the envelope because he understood that God is but an abstraction of an idea by which some of us orient ourselves to create a functional society. And so that's where he was, right? And so he wasn't all about, well, let me talk and dance about theism, right? It was to him important that we understand what the biblical corpus was, and we can't get at something that we don't understand because we don't have all of the elements required to do proper exegesis and so on and so on. And so he understood that, so he jumped into philosophy. And philosophy for him was more about connectedness and understanding relational issues. And so, it was, I don't know, he was a very good guy, and I liked him a lot. Enjoy reading after him. But I'm going to pull up your picture, and please do us a favor and talk about that new pic.
Yeah, awesome.
Now
okay.
you can't see it, but it's there.
Okay. I was wondering about that. That's good. I will believe you. So this picture is done with a picture that was just me, kind of looking like this. You know, like it was a screenshot that I took with the camera open, for no reason. Not a particularly good picture either. But Eric had asked me for a picture to make like something out of. I didn't really know what it was going to be. And I sent him that picture, and we just have been, I don't know, really exploring sort of the ways that art and philosophy get you to sort of the same place, and you know, just talking through all the crazy things that we've been through over the last 15 years or so, and Eric did this picture, and Eric is a very talented artist. He does digital work. He's the father of a school called Motionism, which I don't claim to completely understand, but he's also influenced by hyperrealism, which I do claim some philosophical relationship to. The idea is, sort of postmodern anxiety leads to what Baudrillard called basically hyperrealism, which is the inability to distinguish the real from the virtual. And so I've been, I don't know if it's been clear, but I've been kind of obsessed with this question, what comes after postmodernism? And I believe that the answer, I could still, change my mind if I have to, if this turns out to be wrong. But I believe that the answer is that the hyperreal collapses back into the real, and people just learn to use the new space that's given to them by the virtual. And so like all of this anxiety that you get if you read, what's his name? I'm so bad with names today.
That's quite all right.
Don DeLillo. All I had to do was quit trying to remember. But Don DeLillo's book, White Noise, sort of conveys this sense of the hyperreal anxiety by including these little snippets from the TV at like sort of inappropriate moments because it's always on in the background. And that's like this source of anxiety for these guys. But I think that through sort of the soul searching that I've been doing with my best friend from, so long ago, what we've actually found is that there is good reason to believe that the plane of the real is just extended. And so there's sort of this boundless optimism that is just permeating pretty much everything that Eric does these days. And he's done murals, he's done oil paintings, he's had a hard time distributing his work. So the technology stuff that I've been doing with blockchain, and my goal is to ultimately build not the modern day Library of Alexandria, because that is a thing and we do support them and they are awesome, but like the legend of the Library of Alexandria, except on the blockchain. And so in the process of sort of talking to Eric about this ridiculous idea that people just love, we opened up and got to, I think, a really important place philosophically. So what Eric's art represents to me is sort of this gateway through which people become more able to understand what this new technological realm is on the first place, but also what it's going to look like and how it's going to operate. And it's still being developed, so it's obviously just a very fast-paced world, but it's very intriguing and it's very fun. And there's so many amazing artists out there doing incredible things. It would be remiss of me not to call out Marjan Moghadam, who is actually a Facebook friend of mine, who's a very famous artist. I just learned this recently. She's been world famous for 45 years for doing high art.
Wow.
And she's just so powerful. And the message that I get from her work is, feminism is a humanism, the way that existentialism is a humanism. It's a fundamental approach to the way to sort of acculturate new individuals into that particular gender identity that's extremely effective. And you know, in terms of toxic masculinity and so on these days, which are all hot button topics, I think really everything just resolves back into this question of like, when are men ever going to catch up to that technology? Like, when are men ever going to figure out that the feminists have gotten something? They've gotten something very right, and they're able to support each other. But here we are, you know, we're all men, and we're all talking about, you know, our issues with vulnerability. We're all talking about the hell that we've had this past year. Maybe this is a good place to start it. You know, maybe we can help acculture men to vulnerability and to deep connections with other minds, and kind of get out of like this, you know, hyper materialistic, hyper sexist, you know, hyper sexualized existence that we all, you know, find ourselves sort of pushed towards by this postmodern anxiety that I think is just going to kind of evaporate. You know, I think once people figure out how cool what's coming is, they're just going to kind of be okay with it. It's you know, we'll still have problems, I'm sure, and we'll still have disagreements and everything, but I feel like some economic things may change in the near future that could be very, very good. I think that people are learning how to virtually connect at a deeper level than we were connecting in the real life space before. And yeah, I mean, everything I feel right now is just optimism and hope. And it's so weird because it's like the middle of this, you know, like what President Biden called a dark winter, you know, and yet there's like a ray of sunshine here. And I don't know. I really want to bring that out for my friend Terry, because I know he's had a real hard time, and that isolation that you feel is real, Terry. And yeah, we can talk if you want sometime, man.
Hey, can I toss something out there?
Sure.
I think it fits into what you were just speaking of. I just because I have a computer in front of me as I'm talking into it. I pulled up hyperrealism. It looks like an interesting topic, and I saw something today. I exposed myself to a newer Netflix movie, and I watched for about 15 minutes. And went, oh, shut up! But and so if anyone's seen this, and I can't remember the name of the movie exactly, but it was a foreign language film that they translated, and of course, then they also threw other things that I had to read. Hate when you have to read a movie, but that's personal. But anyhow, the idea is that Earth, you know, it's at the end of the 22nd century or whatever it is, whichever one we're in right now. It's set at the end of this century, and they can't live on the Earth, so they put this space elevator and they go up and they're colonizing other places. And because I've built just about everything you can imagine. Some things I'm even good at. And that's the stupidest idea I've ever thought of. Here we have an Earth. We've got everything we need here right now. So if we're overfishing the oceans, we'll stop doing that, moron. You know, I mean, you know, because there's going to become a point when the cost doesn't when even the greedy people can't go out there and drain the oceans anymore. And with a little bit of luck, because it's a big place, the Pollock, you know, numbers will come back, and McDonald's will sell something else instead of fish sandwiches, and you know, things like that. And it'll reset itself. We could do it on purpose, but we could also, you know, recognize that there's going to be a point at which we all just start, you know, being more practical. But this weird notion, and I think this is just fascinating and bizarre at the same time, and it's very psychological, it's very philosophical, the idea that, you know, we're going to just F up this room, and then we'll go to the other one. And the other one doesn't even exist, you know, and it isn't going to exist at any kind of a point in time that, you know, yeah, we're going to send 12 people who want to breed off, you know, to somewhere else, and then everything else here will just turn to crap. You know, but another idea, we could just quit wrecking the place. And then that would be kind of cool too. But you mentioned the hyper-realism thing and the finding ourselves, and I just saw that movie today, and I tried to watch it because I wanted to entertain myself with something that wasn't real, and it was so unreally unreal. It wasn't just a suspension of disbelief like watching The Expanse, which is a cool series. It was just dumb, and that's only an opinion. It could be really clever for other people, but.
That's cool.
Does that make sense? I think that kind of fits in what you're saying. I just was trying to make a connection, because as we look for this next step, and you'll be there and I'll be, not. That's how this works, I guess.
Yeah, that absolutely does make sense. And I think I see what you're saying, which is just we need to get our shit together and fix our planet. Rock on, brother.
That's the simple way of putting it. Yeah.
I love that prose. I mean, that is too cool. Do me a favor, Dylan. Share how people can get a hold of you. People love you. We love you dearly.
I'm sorry, Dr. Judge. You trailed off just a hair.
Okay.
What were you saying?
I'm simply asking you. I mean, people love you. We love you dearly, and we want people to know how to get in contact with you, where to go to see your articles and all that, and establish, meaningful connection with you. I mean, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I would love that too. Do you want me to send you some links? I've got all kinds of stuff.
I mean, you can send me some links, but why don't you go ahead and give the links out here in real time?
Okay. Yeah, ThomasDylanDanielAuthor.com is my website. And I'm in the process of rebuilding it, so it's just an FAQ and 2 links for the moment. But the links go alternatively to my Voice account at the Voice social media site, and then also to my Medium, so you can kind of get into everything. There should be like 130 articles on Medium at this point, so there's quite a bit. It's not all awesome. I've kind of put it all together as I've been going here, and a lot of those articles took an hour or 2 to write, and or just a hair rough. But I'm going to be going through and actually creating a book that's going to explain sort of why I've been so successful trading cryptocurrency, if that makes any sense, and just how I approach investing in general. And the idea is going to be just to make it the most lightweight thing possible. Just, pull the relevant articles from that backlog and, put those together and make a book about investing. And, maybe with some interviews, I don't know. Anyway, so I work for a magazine called Crypto Writer, and they're on the Voice platform. And basically what they're doing is just trying to bring all these voices together from all the different sides of the cryptocurrency equation to basically just keep track of it all, So I highly encourage anybody who's looking at this to come join our Crypto Writer community on the Voice application, and I'll provide links and invites and all that good stuff later. I'll just append it to the bottom of the YouTube in a comment or something.
Okay, if you would be so kind to do that, we would like to add it to the description. We can do that for the archives and all of that, and so whatever you can send us, we'll put it there. And so for those of you guys who have enjoyed, I don't know, anyone who would not enjoy Dylan. I mean, come on. You'd have to be dead not to smile, right? And so this guy is unreal. I mean, he's just better than God. So with that said, I know you have to get out of here. Last word, Dylan. Talk to me.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Okay.
What was it?
I said, you told me that you could stay here an hour and that's it. And so I just wanted to give you the last say here. I'll talk to Terry and Daryl here in a minute, but I don't want to keep you overtime because I know that you.
I do have a couple of things to do. They're nowhere near as exciting as talking to you guys. I'm going to be putting together like a deck or something here in a little bit, and kind of some boring documents like that. But I don't know. I think what's possible is changing. I think that as some of this new tech comes on and it becomes easier to sort of escape like the Facebook moats and kind of follow people around like these multi-site, identities and footprints that they're building with all this new tech that's coming out just faster than you can really keep up with. It's going to be an interesting time, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities, and I just. I'm so excited about that, that it helps a little bit with some of the angst as far as just the isolation and the coronavirus and everything. But, at the end of the day, I don't really have answers here. I don't know anything to do that makes this better right off, or any easy fixes. And if I did, you can believe I would share that stuff. So I don't know. I guess just keep it real and try to make sure that people you love know that you love them.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. I mean, know that you're loved and respected and all of that. And so come back soon.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll make it a point to. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Okay. You take care. And I'm going to go to Daryl right now.
Great to see you, by the way. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
You take care. What'd you think about Dylan, Daryl? I mean,
interesting. Very interesting.
I thought that what he had to say concerning his relationships and all of that, I thought it was extraordinary. What he had to say about the COVID-19 crisis and how to deal with it, I thought was very on point. I don't know. I was just really super pleased with his demeanor and what he put forward. I mean, it was good. So you guys chat about this for a few minutes, and I'll jump in. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Go for
it. Go ahead, Terry.
Sorry, I was responding to something else that popped up in the messenger. Dylan stepped in on Facebook a couple of years ago, and we had an interesting chat. He was it's fun to watch somebody evolve. We had a good talk about how real language was, and I'm sure Dr. Jones, you and I have probably discussed this a few times ourselves, but how language cannot extract, especially the written word. We were just talking about this the other day, that we can do more as we speak like this, especially if I can see you. On the phone, it's one thing. When I can see you, it's another thing. I hang one of these fool things in front of my face, and then I'm half gone again. I mean, every one of these is a layer of connection. And when you get to writing, and some people feel more comfortable with writing, but when you get to writing, it's another layer broken down, and that's what makes good words really that have been written down really cool, because somebody got it. So they found a way to make this thing that became, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's a good dead horse to beat. They're touching on a cultural touchstone. They're touching on the meta story. They're touching on this, this great underlying thing. And every time somebody gets a piece of that and gets it in writing, and like what Hemingway said, that writing is easy. All you have to do is sit down at a typewriter and bleed. That when you finally can make that sentence, you get that perfect sentence, you know it. And maybe nobody else will know it for a while or ever, but you know that you got it. But it's so hard to do that. And it's one of those things that the more words you use in writing, the harder it becomes to create those things. And after a while, it's a treadmill of words that, if the good sentence is buried in there, you can't extract it in reading unless you're lucky enough to find it. But when we're talking like this, there'll come a moment here and there where we'll connect. And I think that's one of the really cool things about actual physical conversation. And that was the very gist of our first conversation he and I got into, and we went on for 2 days. We wrote half a book back and forth to each other. It was a spirited disagreement. But what's interesting to see is not that I was right, but that Dylan's agreeing with me, which is kind of, I didn't get here by nothing. It took a while to get as ignorant as I am today. So it's fun to watch the evolution of a person who's trying. It's very enjoyable.
Yeah. What say you, Daryl?
Yeah, I see your point. I agree. Um, I think he's going to get there.
You look exhausted tonight, Daryl. What's going on?
Oh, well, I guess I'm exhausted.
I can so identify with that. I sometimes get, I mean, at our age, we wake up exhausted, right?
Well, I go out every day and, run all over the place, work here and there and everywhere.
Sure.
And
Sure.
it does get tiring.
It does. It does. I mean, you're one of the most productive people that I know. I mean, second to none. And so, I'm very, very thankful for everything that you input into this show. And, oftentimes you just sit back and try to, play that sportive role, and you do it very well. And I thought that when Dylan started talking about, being there with his family and establishing better connections, I was just off the charts happy. I mean, I'm happy for him.
There's
being able to
nothing
connect
better
in that
than
way.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, do you guys have a final word on this or that before we get out of here?
I'm good. It was an enjoyable evening, and even though the dog never let me have the nap, I eventually got 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there, and it almost added up to the rest I was looking for. So I'm not tired right now for some odd reason. It's sort of nice. By the way, if you want to play with the laser, I'll let you do it later.
That'll keep me awake.
The dog like and by the way, this is a little bit of personal information. I got this for the dog, and I figured the dog would figure out that I was doing it. Well, she figured out that I was doing it, and she likes it. It's not like the cat that never gets it. She knows it, and she's now anytime I pick up any flashlight, she's going, do it. But I've only got one flashlight that has a laser, and so now she's upset that the other flashlights don't have lasers in them. But I did get it to amuse my dog for the most part, and I can. I thought someday what I would do so we could have a more scientific show. By the way, I could put a piece of white cardboard behind me here and put an XY graph, and I could draw a couple lines on there, and then we'd do science. They wouldn't mean anything, but they always do that. You always know it's really scientific when you've got the XY graph. So if you'd like, I can whip one of those up with a old Amazon box or something like that. Yes, like that was sarcasm. Pardon me.
I love your word choices. I mean, they're always good. What did you tell me earlier about the dog? I mean, it was a good joke.
Me?
No, Terry.
Okay.
I don't know. I was trying to get her to quit talking before the show, but other than that, I can't recall offhand.
Okay, I'll tell you after the show. We're going to get out of here. We've had a great time with all of you. Dylan is fantastic, to say the least. And so I'm hoping that all of you will really get involved in what he's doing. I mean, he's doing a lot of things that I'm not aware of, but he's just a good guy. I mean, he's extraordinarily smart, has a great family. I mean, very well educated, and yet at the same time, I like the humility. That is so good, and so just send your love out to him. Become a part of his life, what he's doing. Okay, we're going to get out of here. Good night.
you.